For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the insurrection. I'm Michael Albert, and today I'm joined by Steve Hook, host of The Right Hook, which you can find every 4 p.m. Friday right here on X America News. Happy Monday, Steve.
Back at you, Michael. Good to see you, brother.
Oh, yeah. I hope you had a great weekend. And, well, I guess we'll just get right into it because here Saturday we had 2 U.S. service members killed due to the Iranian strikes. Things are definitely heating up there. Trump canceled his plans, went into the war room, went into the bunker, and I started personally advising CENTCOM what targets to hit. I think this changed a few things over the weekend. We're also now hearing some of the Gulf states may get much more involved, especially after having all their water plants and civilian infrastructure and even just hotels and other things targeted once again over the weekend. Again, it's not like it's the first time that this has happened. Elements within Iran's fractured government are also threatening ground invasions to take over U.S. bases. That's got to be about the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But I think they should definitely do it because I just don't know how you move a column of men and machines across the desert. I mean, they are aware we've got A-10s, right?
This is kind of like the reverse Brer Rabbit. Remember, Brer Rabbit said, "You can boil me alive, you can skin me, you can do whatever you want. Whatever you do, just don't throw me into the briar patch." And of course, that's what he really wanted. Now the Iranians are saying we want a ground invasion. That's what we really want. I don't know that they're going to get one, but I know damn good and well they don't want one because that would be the end of them. What really bothers me about the whole thing, Michael, it's horrible that we lost a couple of troops over there in Jordan. I mean, that's tragic, no doubt about it. But here's a country that's been holding the entire world hostage for half a century, and people are like going, "What is Trump doing?" Trump is doing something that should have been done, 45 years ago. The Iranian mullahs cannot stand, period. And it's good news to hear that some of the Gulf states are starting to wake up to that. Kuwait is, the UAE is, Saudi Arabia is. So I think a lot of these states will come together and it'll be for the good. But you got to suffer the pain before you get to the good. But I mean, these mullahs can't stand. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah, and one thing I saw suggested, I was listening to over the weekend to some commentary, and this was news broadcast, like on Fox, I can't think if it was CNN or who it was now, but their guest actually said some things that made some sense, and that was they were suggesting that these Gulf states do want to get more involved. They're furious after getting attacked so many times that if we do have to have a small number of boots on the ground in a strategic capacity, maybe taking Karg Island and some of the other surrounding areas, I guess there's places right across from there on the coast where a lot of these attacks are being launched from. Have them do it. they've got armies, they've got militaries, they can be the boots on the ground, they can be that stopgap to take over territory. Like, I don't think it'd be a good idea having them do like a full-on invasion into Iran. But if there is territory that we have to hold right now, make them do it. I mean, they're much more dependent on the straits being open than we are, and they have the resources. These are very wealthy nations, unlike our allies in NATO that apparently, can't get one boat over there without it breaking down and having to turn back and head for home. So yeah, maybe if a situation develops where there has to be boots on the ground, then let them do it. And then Iran, the other, like I said a minute ago, like they're actually threatening now to attack U.S. bases in the region with ground forces. Like, frankly, I just don't see that happening. I mean, the column of men and machines couldn't make it there. They would be obliterated well before they ever arrived. So, I mean, if they really want to try it, I think it's a great idea. This would be a great way, sort of like in Afghanistan when they were all building up these forces in the valley between a couple mountains. And we just went in and dropped a couple daisy cutters. The only thing that was left was belt buckles and boots. That might be the way to handle the problem.
Remember in the Iraq War, the original Iraq War, when they had the Highway of Death, when they were hot putting it out of Kuwait as quick as they could. And you mentioned A-10s and those warthogs, God bless them, they're beautiful. And they just laid waste to all of them. And I mean, that's exactly what would happen. They can't be stupid enough not to know that, but they are ideological enough to sacrifice as many men as possible because they just don't care about human life. And that's why when people question Trump's motivations here, I'm like, dude, you're dealing with an ideological rabbit zealot government that no doubt if they had a nuke, they would use it, and they would use it the second they could. They don't care. So kill them all and let Allah sort them out as far as I'm concerned.
That's right. It's up to us to arrange their meeting with God. America expanded operations against Islamic Republic. The IRGC threatened American soldiers. Great article up on Iran International. And they've kind of it's part of a linked series that they had over there. But this is a good look at what's happening in the region. There are several scenarios that could result in U.S. becoming trapped in land war in the Middle East. There's also a great article. It's up on Liberty Daily right now. But kind of same thing that we're getting lulled in, we're getting pulled into this now, whether we like it or not. So we are going to have to finish the job. Basically, you cannot have peace with the Muslims that are running the country, holding the people there hostage in Iran, because they're not honest negotiators. And again, if you didn't believe it before, you certainly should now. But one of the things that these two articles are pointing at too is, there was a brief period during this MOU, ceasefire that we had for a little while for countries to sort of restock their oil reserves. But this is the problem. Like, that clock is ticking again. Now, previously, what was kind of widely said is most countries had between a 4-week and a 40-day supply of oil, but most countries did not get back to that level. So the real question is now, and this is something I guess they're kind of looking at nation by nation, is how much do these countries have in reserves? Are there other places they can pull from? The other part of the commentary here was, getting Europe to get more fuel from the United States as of right now. However, the other thing they point out is the U.S. needs oil to be traded in the petrodollar. So we are going to have to continue participating in that and selling U.S. Oil on the open market, which means, of course, we're going to get fuel prices increasing here too. So, I mean, it really is like a no-win scenario, but it's the only thing we can do until the Straits of Hormuz are open and these other Gulf states can get back to capacity shipping oil out to Europe and Asia and Africa and other places around the world. And that's kind of been one of the big hindrances there. The other thing they got into, and I don't remember which of the two articles this was, is how much of the oil infrastructure has been destroyed across the entire Middle East. Because obviously we're hitting a lot of Iran's right now in retaliation specifically for the last 2 soldiers' deaths and for attacking our bases in various countries. But Iran's also been hitting in Kuwait and UAE and many of the other Gulf states. They've been hitting their oil, the shipping infrastructure related to oil, whether it's pipelines or storage containers or other things there, but they're also hitting refineries. And a lot of the fuel or a lot of the oil that leaves the Middle East, I mean, it's not like 50% or anything, but a big chunk of it is fully refined and is leaving the country as usable fuel already. If that capacity is gone, a lot of the countries in Europe don't have refining capacity anymore. So it's the same thing. It just throws another monkey wrench into the global system.
Well, and the thing that's really frustrating to me about this is beyond the obvious is that here you have the Gulf states who are directly next door to this problem.
Yeah.
And unlike NATO, they've recognized it. NATO kind of ignored the Russian bear.
Yeah.
And of course, who do they blame? They blame Trump. They blame Trump for a problem in their own backyard.
Oh.
And now what's going on here in Iran is you've got Gulf states that are recognizing, and by the way, behind closed doors, they've always said these guys are no good. They got to go. They're going to destroy the whole region, if not the whole world.
Mhm.
And Europe in the run up to all this was too busy opening their borders to every single one of these radical Islamist uh, from either North Africa or the Middle East, and just saying here's your new home, and then
Yeah.
arresting citizens who bitch about it. And now they're too scared to do anything because
Yeah.
now the enemy is within the gates that they invited in because they're so progressive and all. And now they can't do anything. They're handcuffed.
Yeah.
I think it's time to take Karg Island completely. I also think every time some pipsqueak from Iran, whether it's a IRGC official or some spokesman, opens up his mouth and says something bad about the United States, there ought to be a hit team that takes that son of a bitch out within a day. Say, okay,
Yes.
open your mouth again, you're dead. I just don't get this. Oh, it's all Trump's deal. This has been a half century. And,
Yeah.
and their attitude is we should just appease them. You can't appease zealotry. You just can't. It'll never
No.
happen. So I don't want to see it in. I don't want to see the action have to be stepped up. But it's going to have to be stepped up exponentially because these people are not going to stop until they are all dead. And like you said, I'd like for us to arrange that meeting.
Yeah. I mean, the Iranians right now, at a time again when they're getting hammered, they're out there telling their proxies too to amp things up. Both attacks on Israel. They're telling the Houthis to go start attacking ships going through another, not a strait, another shipping route. Sorry, I'm not remembering the name of it right now. But they're continuing to turn the screws, apply pressure to the world any way they can. This is a terrorist state. And I think the whole globe needs to start treating them as such, that it's time to just wipe their leadership out, to take the country back, allow the people there, the Persians, to have their own autonomy again, and create a state in the Gulf that'll act as a long-term stabilizing factor that can once again be a beacon of freedom across the Middle East. Again, Iran used to be mini America. I've said this before. They actually used to have the U.S. Constitution as the supreme rule of law, minus the Second Amendment and a few other changes to accommodate for instead of a president, a royal family that acted in the president's role, but still had restricted powers. So this is right now, we are on the verge of either a massive victory or long-term pain. And I think it's time for the rest of the world to step up. Again, what's the point of being in NATO if they're not going to do anything except whine and bitch about Donald Trump? So some countries are finally starting to meet their obligations there, but they're going to have to do what the U.S. normally does. They're going to have to step up and assist in this operations if they want relief in fuel prices. It's middle of summer right now, but winter is just around the corner, and we already saw how bad things have been there for Europeans for the last few years. Maybe they could finally get their people a little price relief. They could open up the straits here, allow energy to flow once again, and stop making these stupid decisions just because they hate the West and hate Donald Trump.
Well, that's just it. I mean, these people are so filled with a visceral hatred of Trump that when Trump is trying to do something that, as I mentioned, should have been done decades ago regarding these Islamic radicals that run Iran, instead of looking back at that history, instead of looking at the Khobar Towers, instead of looking at the bombing in Beirut in 83, instead of looking at the thousands and thousands and thousands of dead Americans and Europeans and like-minded Gulf states that were our allies, they focused their laser-like attention onto Trump.
Mhm.
They want the status quo. We can live with a little bit of terrorism. Well, no, the hell we can't. No,
Yeah.
we can't. And those people, this is why the DSA is taking off so much here. Not so much
Oh,
because people believe in socialism, but because it's so opposite of Trump that they're going to get behind it. These people are very stupid. Well, I say if you're under the age of 40 and you support socialism, you're incredibly ignorant. If you're over the age of 40 and you support socialism, you're an abject moron. Um, and oh well, Bernie Sanders is no moron. Bernie Sanders is a lying hypocrite, morons.
yeah.
He owns several houses. He's a millionaire. He is the very definition of a limousine liberal. In this case, we'd call him a limousine commie, and that's what he is. And he has no intention of you getting more powerful. He just wants for himself to get more powerful. But bringing it full circle back to Iran, that's why they hate Trump so much. That's why they're not. That's why they're saying he made a big mistake. He did not make a big mistake. Iran must be made to come under the boot because they are radicals and they want everyone listening to this podcast dead.
Yeah.
And if you're too stupid to understand that, then you should have your voter ID card pulled. Hopefully, we'll
Yeah.
get one of those one day. But
Ye-
what can you say? I mean, these people are idiots, and they're emotional children, is what they are.
Yeah. Well, like we discussed on here before, I think a lot of it too is Europe's been invaded already, and they know if they really back U.S. major operations there, that cities will be burning. That the religion of peace will once again get out in the streets, set the Eiffel Tower on fire, which they've done multiple times now. I saw a thing over the weekend about how many times the Eiffel Tower has been set on fire in the last 10 years versus the last 100 years. But anyway, London will burn. Sadiq Khan will be out there, talking about how this is an attack on religious people and religious freedom or whatever other garbly-gook commie nonsense he's going to spew. That they're already a hostage. The knife's already at their throat, and they know if they move, the blade gets plunged in. But I guess to take
put it this way, buddy, I was just in France a year ago,
Mhm.
and I went to the city of Rouen, which is a beautiful city. It's gorgeous, and some of these buildings date back to the 1300s, and even earlier. And it also happens to be the place where Joan of Arc was burned at the stake. And
Mhm.
there's statues of Joan of Arc all over Rouen. And the Islamists have defiled all of them and basically said, we own your country now.
Yeah.
And the French citizenry can't stand it. They despise it. But the French government, being the French government, won't do a damn thing about it.
Yeah.
And every country's going to have to man up and, frankly, Trump up. They're going to have to lose their hatred of Trump and understand this is no longer a battle between Trump or conservative versus liberal. This is quite honestly good versus evil, and they are evil. But when you're progressive, you don't believe in evil. Oh, there's
No.
there's shades of gray, and that one man's
Morality
evil
is
guy another man's
flexible.
holy man. All this garbage.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and in Europe, we've had tens of thousands of churches burned now, and we're beginning to see this in the U.S. Indiana Lieutenant Governor calls for ban on Islamic call to prayer over loudspeakers. Hamas-linked care enraged. So yes, the Muslims are big mad, and honestly, I this doesn't go far enough. I think this is a good step. It sends a message because again, they play this. So they don't do this. By and large, in Islamic countries, they do it in countries where they want to send a message that this is theirs now. They own this territory. You don't really see this going on in like Riyadh or other places. Not to say that it never happens. There's probably celebrations or other things where they do it over the loudspeaker someplace. I know some idiot's going to message me otherwise about that. But
well, whatever. Screw that idiot, because what they're doing that in an Islamic country. So
Yeah.
I don't care what they do in Islamic countries.
Yeah. Well,
but
and
they're
then
doing
this is
it
it.
in
This
America.
doesn't go far enough. We really need to ban halal slaughter and actually, in law, enshrine that Sharia law is illegal. Like, I don't have the story here, but I'm sure you saw it over the weekend with some Islamic guy didn't want to sit next to a woman on an airplane through a temper tantrum,
Yeah.
cited Sharia law. So we got to end this. We got to codify. And again, I do agree with Andy and some other people that it should already be banned. It already conflicts with law, U.S. law. It is international law. It should not be valid here. But we're going to have to codify it. We're going to have to write that down, and we're going to have to enforce it. And I think we also need to ban halal slaughter to make things as difficult as possible for any Muslims that still live here, so they will deport themselves, some of them, and even ones that were born here will be like, you know what, I'm not welcome here anymore. My faith, which is really political beliefs and world domination and takeover, is no longer welcome in the United States. I guess I'm going to have to run off to Saudi Arabia.
Well, I just wonder what what would CARE say if all of a sudden Times Square in New York was shut down for a mass reading of the Lord's Prayer? How do you think CARE would respond to that? They would we know how they would respond.
They'd strap
Um,
on their suicide vests and no one would be safe.
yeah, that's what they would do. And Ibrahim Hooper and all these other hate mongers uh, love to talk about religious freedom, but it's a one-way street with them. What they mean is we're allowed to come over there and take over your country, take over your city, take over your state, even your neighborhood, and you can't do a damn thing about it because religious freedom, don't you know? But if it were reversed and we went into Dearborn, Michigan with 1 million patriots carrying crosses and reading the Lord's Prayer in the heart of downtown, they would lose their ever loving minds. So I don't give a rip about what Islam thinks about the West anymore. I think it's
Yeah.
time to eradicate radical Islam.
Yeah,
Period.
yeah, I think it's time we need to launch an operation to occupy Dearborn, Michigan. Get Christians up there every day praying in the streets, and do this continuously until they all lose their minds. They'll attack before long, and you're just going to have to defend yourself. But I think it's time to start pushing back against this stuff, going to territory that they think they control, and showing that we are still the dominant force here. The West is still in charge. If you want to have domination, well, go back to the Middle East, where you already control everything, where you've already slaughtered the Christians, slaughtered the Jews, and slaughtered anyone else that opposes you. And again, I think honestly, I think we need to cut most of these countries off financially. We ought to just abandon the entire Middle East and let them fight amongst themselves and stop having access to our money. But right now, that's not realistic. But it should be. Yeah, I think it's time we start pushing back. If they're not going to allow Christians into their country, then we don't trade with them. We can't have churches there or proselytize within their country. Then we just segregate them, and they can just have their own little world away from us.
I tell you what, if you would have said that a year ago, I would have vehemently disagreed with you. But having seen what I've seen, and having been around various capitals and cities and towns inside Europe, and I told you, I think I mentioned on here before, I was in Amsterdam a couple of years ago, within eye line of Anne Frank's old house, and there was a Islamic speaker on a megaphone, basically screaming, "Kill the Jews." Um, that they would allow that in Amsterdam is
Hmm.
shocking to me. But that's what happens when you say, "Oh, they've been invaded." Well, yeah, but it was an invitational invasion. I mean, they brought them all in. Angela
Yeah.
Merkel should forever be despised in Europe because she's the one that pushed all this garbage.
Yeah.
And now Europe is paying the price. And unfortunately, the rest of the world is paying the price because now Europe is reverting to form and are becoming a bunch of pacifists because they don't want to piss off the mob inside the gates. Well, you need to clear out
Yeah.
the cities and towns of all this garbage.
Less Neville Chamberlain, more Churchill.
There you
Uh,
go.
Immigrants' use of welfare, Medicaid, may be a determining factor in green card approval under Trump administration. Again, I don't know why this wasn't a factor before, but it certainly needs to be codified now. So, and again, I don't think anybody that's here on any type of immigration visa whatsoever should be able to have any access to any welfare program, period.
None.
But I guess at the very least, if we can use this now, if they've been abusing and using welfare while they were here on a green card or a visa or whatever, that they may not be able to become they won't be able to get a green card or become a U.S. citizen. And again, I think this is bare minimum. It shouldn't be allowed, period. That if you are not a U.S. citizen, and I am including lawful permanent residents and other people in that you should have zero entitlement to anything from Social Security, any type of Medicaid, Medicare, or state welfare program, no WIC for you, no nothing. And again, if you're asking for these programs, we need to throw you out because you can't make it here on your own and you can't become a burden to our society here in America. We have to do what's best for our own people. And if you can't make it on your own, you got to go.
That's right. Well, I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. And I think that this is part of the reason they hate Nick Shirley so much, too, because Nick Shirley is absolutely exposed. It's not just that they're taking advantage of our generosity.
Yeah.
They're coming here with the specific intent of taking advantage of our generosity, and not just our generosity, but they're bilking taxpayers out of literally billions and billions of dollars every year. And that's all by design. This fraud that Nick Shirley exposed in Minneapolis and in other cities um, is part of the game plan.
Yeah.
And Democrats refuse to acknowledge that because if they acknowledged it, they would have to do something about it or they'd have to say something about it. But instead, what do? They turn it on Nick Shirley. They turn it on MAGA folks. They turn it on Trump. They never want to deal with the problem in front of them. They remind me of the French government. They remind me of European parliaments that just refuse to admit the problem. Because the problem helps them at the end of the day. And they are not country first. They are not USA first. They are power first. And that's where the Democrats have found themselves. They got their tit in a ringer now because now the DSA is coming after them and basically saying we're going to throw Hakeem Jeffries out and all this. And
we're taking over.
Democrat Party is imploding on itself. It's pathetic.
But yeah, we're going to get more to that here in a minute. But yeah, to your point, we have to start looking out for our own interests. The Democrats and these globalists everywhere would like nothing more than to continue to loot America's treasury. We see the result of that, and that's why these programs are allowed to persist, even though there's clear warnings of fraud and clear warnings that a lot of the dollars are being sent overseas. And again, there have been people warning about it for years with the COVID program, a lot of these state Medicaid programs, autism, the homeless industrial complex. But yeah, it's time to do something about it. Like the American people are furious. I mean, I know people that don't want to pay taxes right now until these are corrected just because of how much it's going through out the door in fraud and how much they're struggling to pay all their bills, support their family without big daddy government coming in and write them a check once a month. We can't become reliant on that because that's essentially the Democrat pitch right now. It is more government, more handouts, more bailouts, universal basic income. That's on the horizon. That's a pipe dream. That is never going to happen, people.
No.
You know, one other item here, and then we are going to get to the DSA. Federal regulators direct banks to scrutinize loans to illegal aliens. Again, why are you making loans to illegal aliens that are going to leave the country and never pay you back anyway? I don't know. But we know they have been. That they, Bank of America especially, did tons of home loans to illegals. They even got special processing. I can't remember exactly how this worked through the banks to be able to process illegal aliens or people without Social Security numbers or whatever it's called, the stand-in social when somebody's in the process or here legally. So, sorry, guys, no bailouts this time. Stop making loans to illegals. And this is part of an effort to make people self-deport that if you are not, this headline is not written very well because this is also about not allowing illegal aliens to hold bank accounts in the U.S. and eliminating that and making it more difficult so that more of them will self-deport. And this is what we should be doing. We should be clamping down on every resource they have, restricting it. And hopefully the majority of people that are here illegally will self-deport, and we just have to go encourage the criminals to leave the country.
Yeah, encourage them strongly, I would suggest.
Yes.
I think that, look, I don't want to totally rehash all of this, but this is what happened in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Carter originally signed a bill called the Community Reinvestment Act. That act essentially told banks that you can't turn down people for loans that are not qualified to get the loans. You must give them to them. So banks, acting on the government's threat, really more than anything, gave all kinds of loans to people that could never afford to pay them back. And shockingly, they didn't. And what did
Yeah.
that lead to? That led to the 2008 housing bubble burst. And everybody warned about this. Trump, I mean, not Trump, Bush the Jr. warned about it 4 years before it happened. You can go look it up on YouTube because we're
Yeah.
going to hit a bubble here. I'm paraphrasing, but he essentially said this is going to happen. Then, whenever they held congressional meetings on this and stuff and did committees and all this garbage that they always do, every time that Fannie Mae and, and Sally Mae, all this crap was mentioned, they were defended. Oh, they're doing a wonderful job. They're doing a wonderful job. But they weren't doing a wonderful job. What they were doing was they were padding the wallets of people that had no business buying homes in hopes of getting votes. That's what they did. So, you know who caused the 2008 housing bubble burst? Democrats did.
Yeah.
And they're doing it again with this. They don't give a damn about America. They wanted, well, Reagan always talked about a shining city on the hill. Yes, but he was talking about America, not
Yeah.
some third world ass country where we just take everybody. It just sickens me, the naivety of some of these young quote
Yeah.
unquote progressives is just, it's staggering how dumb they are.
Well, yeah, and I think a lot of them know exactly what they're doing, exactly what the results, what they're saying. It isn't that they're stupid; it's that they're evil. And again, I think we got to start treating them like that.
I'm
'Cause
talking about the young ones that are starting to buy into
so am
socialism.
I. Yeah, so am I.
Well, maybe so.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think that's a lot of it. They want to crash the system. But people are starting to wake up to this reality of what's going on. We had several people over the weekend. Start comment. Top Clinton advisor sounds alarm over DSA's socialist surge in the Democrat Party. This is Mark. I just totally blanked on his last name. But he served a couple cabinet positions for President Clinton. And the big one that the left's really met about, I'm not living in communist America. Bill Maher blasts Marxist DSA Democrats, says he may vote for J.D. Vance. And CNN's Van Jones explodes at far left socialist radicals. Stop pooping in the punch bowl and telling us the turds are ice cubes. I mean, here's the thing, though. And, I'm glad that there are some people. I'm actually surprised Van Jones is taking this route because he is more radical anyway. But like I said before, one thing I do at least respect about Van Jones is I think he at least tries to tell the truth, or the truth as he interprets it most of the time, and he tries to be consistent. He's one of the only ones that after Kamala Harris got her butt kicked, was actually introspective and asking real questions, and they kind of shut him up, and he got put on a temporary hiatus over there at CNN. But he was actually looking at the real data, wanted to know what really happened, what changed. Why did Trump not just win, but win by as much as he did, especially in a lot of states? Why was the vote shifting? But like I've said before, I think that they've identified the problem, but I don't think it matters. I think the Democrats are so brainwashed into this vote blue no matter who that maybe in future elections and how they select candidates, it may have an influence if they're all scared of these DSA socialists taking over. But I don't think it affects the outcome of the vote one way or another. That's not what we've seen so far. In a lot of states, they had more votes than average coming out in the primary, while Republicans were trending down. So I don't believe the hype on this one.
Well, look, I believe the hype with regards to some Democrats are coming out and speaking out forcefully against socialism.
Sure.
But that's not because they want to save America. That's because they want to save the DNC. That's
Yeah.
why. They want to save the Democrat, but they made the same mistake, and we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, that Europe has made. Pelosi welcomed the squad. Oh, fresh blood. It's going to be a shot of new blood in the system. It's really going to get going. So we're going to assign AOC a committee seat. We're going to put Ilhan Omar on this committee. Let's make Pramila Jayapal, or whatever the hell her name is. Let's make her a chair of this committee.
Yeah.
Once you do that, anything you say after that is irrelevant. So these people are irrelevant to me. Bill Maher, we've seen the worm turning with that guy for a long time. He obviously despises Trump, even though he says he's a nice enough guy. He hates his politics. So Bill Maher, I don't much care what he has to say, but at least he's saying it. And you've got other people out there that don't even have the balls to say it. And I tell you what, man, the Democrat Party is going through way more issues as a political party, way more dangerous and destructive issues than the Republicans are right now. I know the media likes to focus on the Trump hate. The media likes to focus on the divisions within the conservative movement. The Tate brothers were arrested. Big deal. Screw those guys. But the point is the real problem, and the one that, and it's the real problem because the media won't focus on it, is the DSA is going to take over the Democrat Party if they haven't already. And that's going
Yeah.
to be a real problem for them long term.
Yeah. And, I think part of what has more traditional Democrats shaken right now is that, sort of as you have these policies become more known by middle America, that they are not going to come out and vote for candidates with these next to their name. I don't think it's about the Democrat base at all. And even for this current election cycle, even about people in the middle, like the ones that are going to vote for Democrats are already going to vote for Democrats. I don't think there's a lot shifting that. But when you have the negative impact from this DSA policy in, say, 2 years in a lot of these states, when, New York's fully engulfed, that's when all of a sudden it starts harming them in the not even their base, but their ability to win elections because you scare it off the middle of the country. I think that's the real problem, and that's what a lot of them aren't saying. I do think, Maher's already separated himself from most of the Democrats on a number of issues, whether it's gender insanity, and that type of thing, and even just the hatred and censorship. This is something that even going back a few years, he's been pretty consistent on. But I think he's absolutely been appalled with what he's seen more lately, or the soft on crime stuff. Like I brought this up before, but he owns a restaurant with another guy out in L.A. and they've been robbed like 6 times. They're sick and tired of that. You don't have to live. We don't have to live this way. That's kind of what they've been saying, but. I don't know. I just kind of feel like it's too little, too late, and the Democrats have already, the voters have already chosen this. Something else I'd seen, and I don't know that I fully agree with this or not, but it did make me think that part of this is the youth in the party rebelling after having Bernie Sanders getting his nomination stolen, having Kamala Harris just get airdropped in as a replacement last time, that they are tired of not having control over the party in the same way that people do within the Republican Party. They're tired of super delegates and insiders making their choices for them, and this is their way to take over. And this, I watched this other interview with this other DSA head out of New York. I always forget this guy's name. Gentleman that we've played some clips from before. One, this guy's uneducated. He doesn't understand what the Senate actually is, but he does want to ban it. He wants to eliminate the Senate. And of course, all the other usual talking points, get rid of the Electoral College, give power back to the people. So it's a national Democrat process. But I think this is what terrifies more traditional Democrats, is they know some of these power structures exist for a reason. And it isn't always just political. Sometimes it's the fundamental glue that holds the country together.
Yeah. Well, you're right about when you mentioned Bernie Sanders having the nomination stolen. Think about this. The Democrat Party has not put forward a candidate, a nominee for president that was picked by their own constituents going back over 10 years.
Till 2012.
Bernie Sanders would have won that, but it was Hillary's turn. Joe Biden never would have won, so they airdrop in, as you mentioned, Kamala Harris. I mean, this is really this is a garden of evil weeds that the Democrat Party fertilize themselves. I mean, they created their own monster, and now the monster has taken over the party. That's why they focus on Trump as a monster, because they can't look at their own problems, because their own problems are, this is the new blood. This is look, they're going to get rid of all of you. They're already saying they want to get rid of Hakeem Jeffries. They want him